Picture a kingdom ablaze, where centuries of coexistence are about to be shattered by a single devastating decree. The year is 1492, a moment that would echo through history. While Christopher Columbus was preparing to set sail for the New World, another momentous event was unfolding in Spain that would change the course of civilization forever. Imagine 800 years of rich, complex history coming to a dramatic end. The Moors, a vibrant Islamic civilization, had ruled parts of the Iberian Peninsula, transforming it into a beacon of knowledge, culture, and innovation. Their legacy was extraordinary. Cities like Córdoba and Granada were not just territories, but shining centers of scientific discovery, architectural brilliance, and intellectual pursuit. But everything was about to change. The Christian Reconquista had been a slow, relentless movement, gradually chipping away at Moorish territories. And now, in 1492, the final blow was about to fall. This wasn't just a political decision. This was a seismic shift that would reshape Spain, Europe, and ultimately the world. What drove this radical transformation? What forces could possibly convince a kingdom to expel an entire population that had been integral to its identity for centuries? And most importantly, what were the consequences of this earth-shattering decision? In this journey through time, we'll unravel the mystery behind the Moorish expulsion, a story of power, faith, cultural conflict, and the devastating human cost of religious intolerance. Get ready to dive deep into one of history's most dramatic and overlooked chapters. If you're passionate about uncovering the hidden stories of great empires, if you love peeling back the layers of historical mysteries, then buckle up. This is a tale that will challenge everything you thought you knew about medieval Spain. Don't miss a single moment. Like this video, subscribe to the Modern Age Chronicles channel, and let's explore history together. To truly understand the expulsion of the Moors, we must first step back and marvel at their incredible legacy. For nearly 800 years, these remarkable people were not just conquerors, but transformative innovators who turned the Iberian Peninsula into a global powerhouse of knowledge and creativity. Imagine a world where science, medicine, and art were flourishing, while much of Europe was struggling through dark and primitive times. This was the world of Moorish Spain. Cities like Córdoba and Granada were not just cities. They were living, breathing universities of human potential. In medicine, Moorish scholars were centuries ahead of their time. While European doctors were still relying on superstition, Moorish physicians were performing complex surgeries, understanding human anatomy, and developing sophisticated medical instruments. They created the first medical textbooks that would be used across Europe for generations, introducing concepts of hygiene, anesthesia, and surgical techniques that were revolutionary. Astronomy was another field where the Moors were absolute pioneers. Their observatories were technological marvels, creating precise astronomical charts and mathematical models that would influence scientists for hundreds of years. They mapped stars, predicted celestial events, and developed mathematical systems that would later become fundamental to navigation and understanding the cosmos. And let's talk about architecture. Oh, the architecture! The Moors didn't just build structures, they created poetry in stone and tile. The Alhambra in Granada is not just a palace, it's a masterpiece that demonstrates their incredible artistic and engineering skills. Intricate geometric patterns, stunning water systems, and buildings that seem to defy the very laws of physics. This was Moorish architectural genius, but here's a fascinating secret that most history books won't tell you. Even after the official Reconquista, many Moors refused to let their culture die. Known as Moriscos, these resilient people continued practicing their faith in the shadows. They developed extraordinary survival strategies, including creating entire secret languages and coded rituals to avoid detection by the ever-watchful Spanish Inquisition. Picture this: Families gathering in hidden rooms, whispering prayers in a language designed to sound like innocent conversation. They created an entire linguistic code, mixing Arabic with Spanish, developing communication methods that could slip past the most vigilant religious authorities. It was an act of cultural resistance, a way of preserving their identity when everything else was being stripped away. With the Reconquista, this incredible legacy began to be systematically erased. But make no mistake, the impact of the Moors would be impossible to completely eliminate. Their contributions had already fundamentally transformed not just Spain, but the entire trajectory of human knowledge. As we move forward in our story, ask yourself, what happens when a civilization is forcibly uprooted? What wisdom and potential are lost when diversity is crushed by religious intolerance? Close your eyes and imagine a battlefield stretching across centuries. The Reconquista wasn't just a war. It was an epic struggle that would define the very soul of Spain, a brutal and relentless campaign that would take nearly 800 years to complete. Picture a chess game played out over generations, where Christian kingdoms slowly, methodically reclaimed territories from Moorish control. This wasn't a swift conquest, but a patient, brutal dance of war, diplomacy, and cultural destruction. Inch by inch, kingdom by kingdom, the Christian rulers pushed back against Moorish dominance. At the heart of this incredible drama stood two monarchs who would change history forever: Ferdinand of Aragon and Isabella of Castile. Young, ambitious, and fiercely committed to their vision, these Catholic monarchs were not just rulers. They were revolutionaries who dreamed of a completely unified Spain. Their ultimate prize, Granada, the last Moorish stronghold, a jewel of Islamic civilization that had resisted Christian conquest for generations. When Granada finally fell in 1492, it was more than just a military victory. This was the final punctuation mark on centuries of conflict, the moment that would reshape the entire Iberian Peninsula. But Ferdinand and Isabella weren't satisfied with mere military conquest. They wanted something far more profound and far more dangerous. Their vision was of a Spain completely unified under a single faith, a kingdom where religious diversity would be erased and Christian orthodoxy would reign supreme. Imagine the tension, the fear, the absolute transformation happening in these moments. Entire communities that had coexisted for centuries were about to be torn apart. Families would be split, cultures would be crushed, and an entire way of life would vanish almost overnight. The fall of Granada was not just a military triumph. It was a declaration of a new kind of national identity, one built on religious uniformity and absolute power. The Reconquista had never been just about territory. It was about creating a pure, unified Christian kingdom, no matter the human cost. As the last Moorish flags fell and Christian banners rose, a new chapter of Spanish history was about to be written, in blood, in tears, and in the profound disruption of a multicultural society that had been a beacon of learning and tolerance for centuries. The question hanging in the air was simple but devastating. What would become of those who did not fit into this new, singular vision of Spain? In March of 1492, a document was signed that would change the course of human history forever. The Decree of Alhambra was not just a piece of paper, it was a weapon of cultural destruction, a royal command that would tear families apart and erase centuries of rich, complex civilization. Picture the scene: the grand halls of the Alhambra Palace, where the Catholic monarchs Ferdinand and Isabella delivered an ultimatum so brutal, so absolute, that it would shock the modern world. Their message was crystal clear and terrifyingly simple: convert to Christianity, or leave everything you've ever known behind. Imagine being a Moor in that moment. You've called this land home for generations. Your family has lived, loved, and built incredible cities here. Your ancestors were scholars, artists, farmers who transformed a landscape into a civilization. And now, in an instant, you're faced with an impossible choice: Abandon your faith or abandon your homeland. Many chose exile. Families packed what little they could carry, leaving behind homes, lands, businesses, entire lifetimes of work and memory. Can you imagine the pain of walking away from everything, with nothing but hope and a few possessions? Thousands made this heartbreaking journey, streaming towards North Africa and the Ottoman Empire, carrying with them a traumatic memory of rejection. Others saw no choice but conversion. They became what were known as Moriscos, outwardly Christian but secretly clinging to their true faith and traditions. But conversion was no guarantee of safety. The Spanish Inquisition watched with a predatory eye, hunting for any sign of continued Islamic practice. These converted Muslims lived in constant fear. Imagine praying in secret, teaching your children your true beliefs in whispers, always looking over your shoulder. They developed elaborate strategies of survival, creating secret languages, developing hidden rituals, preserving their identity through the most delicate and dangerous forms of resistance. The decree of Alhambra was more than a religious mandate. It was a systematic attempt to erase an entire culture, to create a pure Spanish identity through forced uniformity and brutal displacement. Speaking of survival and secret traditions, did you know that the Moriscos actually created entire secret languages to preserve their cultural heritage? Incredible, right? If you're loving this deep dive into history, make sure to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the Modern Age Chronicles channel for more mind-blowing historical stories. And we want to hear from you. Do you think the expulsion of the Moors was justified? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Was this a necessary political move or a tragic moment of cultural destruction? Your perspective matters. Imagine a vibrant tapestry suddenly unraveled, threads of culture and prosperity torn away in an instant. The expulsion of the Moors was not just a religious decree. It was an economic and cultural catastrophe that would bleed Spain for generations to come. Let's talk numbers that will make your jaw drop. Hundreds of thousands of people, we're talking about nearly 20% of Spain's population, were suddenly displaced. But these weren't just numbers. These were farmers who knew every secret of the land, artisans whose hands could create miracles, intellectuals whose minds were libraries of accumulated wisdom. Picture the agricultural landscape of medieval Spain. Moorish farmers were agricultural wizards. They transformed dry, challenging terrain into fertile farmlands, introducing sophisticated irrigation systems, cultivating crops like rice, sugarcane, and oranges that would become fundamental to Spanish economy. When they were forced out, entire agricultural networks collapsed overnight. The intellectual loss was even more devastating. Moorish scholars were the Silicon Valley of their time, innovators in mathematics, astronomy, medicine, and philosophy. Cities like Cordoba were global centers of learning, where scholars from across the world came to study. With their expulsion, Spain lost its intellectual engine, creating a brain drain that would take centuries to recover. Craftsmanship? Forget about it. Moorish artisans were legendary. Their textile workers, metal workers, and ceramic artists were producing goods so sophisticated that they were traded across continents. Intricate tiles, delicate metalwork, advanced textile techniques all vanished with their departure. The cultural diversity that had made the Iberian Peninsula a unique, vibrant civilization was brutally erased. Imagine a society where multiple religions, languages, and traditions coexisted, suddenly reduced to a monolithic, uniform culture. The richness, the complexity, the beautiful chaos of multicultural life, gone in an instant. Economically, the impact was catastrophic. Trade networks collapsed, specialized skills disappeared, and Spain entered a period of profound economic stagnation. The very act of creating a pure Spanish identity had ironically made Spain far weaker, not stronger. This wasn't just a historical moment. This was a profound act of self-destruction, a society fundamentally damaging itself in the name of religious uniformity. The wounds would take centuries to heal, if they ever truly could. Some historians argue that the expulsion of the Moors was the moment Spain began its long decline as a global power. A civilization doesn't just lose people, it loses its soul, its potential, its very essence. History rarely contains a story of destruction that doesn't also become a story of unexpected rebirth. The expulsion of the Moors from Spain was not just a Spanish tragedy, it was a global transformation that would reshape entire civilizations. Imagine thousands of people forced from their homeland, carrying nothing but their most precious possession, knowledge. These weren't just refugees. They were human vessels of centuries of accumulated wisdom, walking libraries of scientific, mathematical, and cultural insights. The Ottoman Empire became a magnificent recipient of this unexpected intellectual migration. Imagine Constantinople welcoming these brilliant minds, scholars, engineers, artists, and thinkers who would reinvigorate Islamic civilization. Cities like Istanbul suddenly became crucibles of innovation, absorbing the rich intellectual traditions of Al-Andalus. In North Africa, entire communities were transformed overnight. Moroccan and Algerian cities became melting pots of Moorish expertise. Agricultural techniques, architectural designs, philosophical concepts, all were transplanted, taking root in new soil. These expelled scholars didn't just survive, they thrived, creating new centers of learning and cultural excellence. Some historians argue that this forced diaspora actually sparked what we might call an Islamic Renaissance. Think about that for a moment. A brutal act of expulsion inadvertently spreading knowledge across multiple continents. The very attempt to eliminate a culture instead became a mechanism of its global dispersion. These Moorish refugees brought with them advanced understanding of astronomy, mathematics, medicine, and philosophy. They introduced sophisticated irrigation techniques, architectural innovations, and intellectual traditions that would influence regions from North Africa to the Middle East. It's a profound irony of history. Spain's attempt to create a pure Christian kingdom actually resulted in spreading Islamic culture and knowledge further than ever before. The very walls they tried to build became bridges of cultural exchange. Picture a scholar from Cordoba walking into a library in Damascus or Istanbul, bringing manuscripts, mathematical treatises, and scientific insights that would reshape entire fields of human understanding. These weren't just people. They were living bridges between civilizations. The global repercussions of the Moorish expulsion remind us of a fundamental truth. You cannot truly destroy knowledge. You can displace it, you can try to suppress it, but true wisdom finds a way to survive, to spread, to transform. What Spain intended as an act of cultural elimination became, paradoxically, an extraordinary moment of global cultural transmission. Some stories refuse to be erased, no matter how hard history tries to write them out. The story of the Moors in Spain is one of those incredible tales that continues to whisper its truth through stone, art, and memory. Walk through Granada today, and the Alhambra stands as a breathtaking testament to a civilization that refused to be forgotten. This isn't just a palace. It's a love letter written in stone, a magnificent structure that speaks louder than any historical decree of expulsion. Every intricate tile, every delicate archway, every mathematical precision in its design screams a simple truth. The Moors were here, and their impact is eternal. But the legacy goes far beyond a single monument. Look closely at Spanish language, and you'll hear the echoes of Arabic. Explore Spanish cuisine, and you'll taste the influences of Moorish culinary traditions. Examine Spanish architecture, and you'll see the geometric patterns and innovative designs that originated with Islamic architects. The expulsion of 1492 wasn't just a moment in time. It was a profound wound that Spain would spend centuries trying to understand. It's a powerful reminder of how religious intolerance can fundamentally reshape a nation's destiny, cutting off entire branches of cultural possibility. Today, scholars and historians are rediscovering the profound contributions of the Moors. They're not just studying history, they're reconstructing a more nuanced, rich understanding of what Spanish identity truly means. The Moorish period is no longer seen as a foreign occupation, but as an integral part of Spain's complex cultural DNA. Imagine a civilization so brilliant that even after being forcibly removed, its essence continues to pulse through the veins of an entire nation. The mathematical innovations, the architectural marvels, the linguistic contributions, these didn't disappear. They transformed, they adapted, they survived. The story of the Moors in Spain is ultimately a story of resilience. It's a testament to the fact that true culture cannot be eliminated by a royal decree. It lives on in the memories of people, in the stones of ancient palaces, in the very soul of a civilization. As we stand here today, we're reminded that history is never simple. It's a complex tapestry of human experiences, of conflicts and connections, of losses and unexpected survivals. The Moorish legacy in Spain is proof that some roots run too deep to be completely torn out. What was intended as an act of erasure became, ironically, an eternal monument to the power of cultural memory. As we reach the end of this extraordinary journey, we're left with a haunting question that echoes through centuries. What is the true cost of cultural uniformity? The year 1492 wasn't just about Christopher Columbus sailing the ocean blue. It was a moment that fundamentally reshaped the very soul of Spain, a brutal transformation that would leave scars lasting generations. The expulsion of the Moors marked the end of an extraordinary era of coexistence, replacing a vibrant, diverse civilization with a singular, rigid vision of national identity. Imagine the alternative history we lost. What if those 800 years of multicultural brilliance had continued? What scientific discoveries might have emerged? What artistic innovations might have transformed the world? What if religious tolerance had triumphed over fear and segregation? This isn't just a historical footnote. This is a powerful lesson about the dangers of cultural destruction, about what happens when societies choose fear over understanding, uniformity over diversity. The Moorish expulsion wasn't just a Spanish story, it's a universal human story about the devastating consequences of intolerance. The wounds of 1492 didn't heal quickly. The knowledge lost, the cultural richness erased, the human potential destroyed. These are not just historical tragedies, but profound reminders of how fragile cultural exchange can be. But here's the most remarkable part of this story. Despite everything, the legacy of the Moors survived. In the language, in the architecture, in the very DNA of Spanish culture, their spirit continued. They may have been expelled, but they were never truly eliminated. History is not a straight line. It's a complex, interconnected web of human experiences, of losses and unexpected survivals. The story of the Moors in Spain reminds us that true culture cannot be destroyed by decree. It adapts, it transforms, it finds a way to continue. If you've been captivated by this journey through one of history's most dramatic chapters, we've got a mission for you. Hit that like button, share this video with every history lover you know, and subscribe to the Modern Age Chronicles channel. We're diving deep into the untold stories that shaped our world, bringing forgotten narratives back to life. Want to keep exploring the incredible, complex stories of human civilization? Stay curious, stay hungry for knowledge, and we'll see you in the next video.